Welcome back to California Life Podcast. It's Common Sense, and today I'm joined by Colleen, and we'll be discussing a very interesting, also probably sensitive topic in a way,
Yes,
but also very important topic in a way because online scamming, especially with its romantic influx, happens to a lot of people. Uh,
it certainly does.
I think I recall recently on the news there were some ladies scammed by fake Brad Pitt or
hmm
other celebs, and well, it's
Keanu
been
Reeves is popular.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's been going on for quite some time. And
Yes.
Colleen, why did you decide to join me in discussing this topic?
Well, it's interesting, Victor, because um, these topics, um, romance scams, any other kind of scam, like online scamming at all, um, and then online harassment, like the world of online connection, I think is really the larger topic that I want to talk about and bring to light today. And it's because I think we have mistaken our online life for real life. And we trust people and we trust situations where we need to be more protective. And you mentioned specifically romance scams. And the reason it's important to me, and I asked you so that, the real truth behind all of this is that I asked Victor if we could talk about these things because they happen to me. And it's not until something actually happens to you that you take it as seriously as you might otherwise. We hear about it all the time. We read stories, we see articles, we see the news flashes of so and so, was scammed out of thousands of dollars. There's just one woman. I saw an article on a news article from one of the uh, channels in San Diego. This poor woman is living out of her car because she gave away all of her money to someone who she thought was Keanu Reeves, who was needing the money. And we all hear that and we go, well, that's ridiculous. Who would believe that? But I'm here to tell you that the people who are doing these scams, they are professionals. They know what they're doing. And they have an insidious way on a psychological, it's like psychological warfare. They know how to get on your good side. And it's almost like a hypnosis. They use your own nature against you. And so that's something I want to talk about today. So I want to talk about online connections and stalking. I've actually also received hate mail recently, and that's something I never thought would happen. Like, uh, you think these things only happen to celebrities. Somebody's got a big name, a huge following, millions of people know who they are. That's why Jennifer Garner or Emily Blunt or, these actresses or big name people, not even in the entertainment industry. I'm sure that government people get hate mail and things like that too. But I'm just little old me. And I've now received two pieces of actually, hate mail is a word term. They're more like disgruntled mail or just really irked with me in their own way. But those are the things I want to talk about because if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. And I want to bring light to the subject of these things. And I want to use my experiences of what happened to me online to to illuminate these problems. And if anybody else is going through this, it's very real and it's happening all the time. So if anyone else is going through it, if sharing my experience and what I've learned through it all can be helpful to someone out there in your viewership, then I am happy to use myself as that example.
Well, that's very noble of you, I would say. And you see, if you received the mail, it means that you joined the celebrity club. So,
That's right. I did joke about that. The first piece of mail that I received, I thought, is this the sign? Is this like I've now made it into the celebrity club that I've got my own hater, my own stalker? But that's interesting. So I did some research into that, and what I received is not an online mail. I actually got envelopes.
Physical. Hmm.
Yeah, physical mail where somebody took the time to type it out on their computer, print it out, fold it up, put it in an envelope, write it out, put the stamp on it, and send it in the mail off to me. And the first one I received was back in October, and the things they made said and the allegations about me. I mean, it was very personal, very specific about who I was. They did not like how I was coming across online, um, and how I presented myself. I had no clue who this is. I mean, I went into Sherlock Holmes mode immediately, trying to figure it out. I showed the piece of mail to several people to get their take on it and their opinion on it. But what I would like to do today, if first of all, okay, I'm gonna back up just a little bit because um, I'm I I'm gonna read. I made some notes and I'm gonna read off this because I think this is important to state in the very beginning.
Of course.
I'm sharing this in transparency because what my being transparent online has cost me. I want others to be cautious. My goal is to raise awareness to help others because there are very real dangers and challenges of having an online presence in today's world. Because it happened to me, it can happen to anyone. But I want to emphasize that these are my personal experiences and that online safety is a very complex issue. So please, everyone out there, do your own research. Don't rely on the things that I'm going to share today as your only source. I think you should do your own due diligence if you suspect someone of stalking you or enticing you into an online romance or any online relationship where you've never met the person in real life and they start asking you for anything, just be cautious. So do your own homework. So I wanted to say that up front.
Noted.
Um, so it's interesting with the first piece of the tape mail that I received. It was back in October, postmarked October 5th, I believe. And of course, I received it a few days later. But it was shocking. It was shocking to read these allegations toward me because they were so far off. It feels to me anyway like this is nothing like me. Why would anybody say these things about me? They don't know me. Whoever this is, they felt they had to do it anonymously. There's no signature. There's no identifying marks on the envelopes or anything like that. And if it's okay with you, Victor, can I read these out loud so that people can hear what was
Please
being
do.
said? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would like to do that just because I honestly, I would also like to get everybody's opinion, your followers on their thoughts on these things. And even from the first one, I've received two pieces of mail now. At first, I thought it was a one off, like no big deal. Most people said just ignore it, it'll go away. Don't give any energy to it. And that's what I did. But after I received the second one, I got a little more concerned. So I would like to see what people think. And if I never felt physically scared, like they never commented on they were coming after me personally, but I just like to also see what other people think. So I'm going to read this. So this is the first letter. Um, and I've sent this to Victor. So, Victor, if you want to put this up at any time on the screen so that people can actually see it, that would be cool too. Fine with
Sure.
me. You permission. It says, Colleen, questions for your delusional self. And then it becomes a bullet pointed list. All right. So here's the bullet points. Why do I keep lying to myself and others about my life? Why is my truth starkly different from the reality? When will I be a contributor to society? When will I realize that no one believes or listens to my nonsensical banter? When will I get on prescription medication that can help me reset and live a fact based life? Why do I prefer to live off others rather than choosing to work? Why do people check out the minute I start my long winded, never ending, absurd blabber? When will I understand that flooding my social media with a fake bio, thirsty, all caps, thirsty, heavily photoshopped, dated, or face app pics won't actually make me look younger or feed my delusional ego. They achieve the opposite. They are sad lies, desperate and attention seeking. And then at the bottom it says advise, although I think they mean advice, but they wrote advise, and all in caps. You will never succeed when while milking the system. You are a joke because you are all talk and no action. You need serious help. Please get it for your own good and survival. So I had one girlfriend who thought that that was part of the threat because they were talking about my survival, but I never really felt physically threatened by these words. But I find it so interesting that somebody I don't know,
Or
or,
maybe you do know. It
or
just
maybe
doesn't.
that's just it. Maybe I do know them, but the things they're saying aren't true. So it's like how well can they know me? they they maybe
Well,
they know who I am. I mean, what's your take on that?
you know, before a meeting with one quite significant actor in the past, and he
Hmm.
also is a martial artist. Um, I always thought that common sense, it's something that we all would share, give it a
Yeah.
take, but in general. Now with meeting this gentleman, and we had the conversation for 8 hours, and then seeing how people perceive elections and
Mm,
everything that's happening after elections, common sense is not common. And you show one thing to 10 different people, probably quite a few of them would see absolutely different things.
yeah.
And you know obviously, what I'm saying is not an excuse for these people who are sending harassments and stuff like that. But it's their own, let's say, trauma. Could be, it's
Yeah.
their own insecurity, it's their own perception, it's their own even illusion of the reality, because a lot of people mistake, or they just want to believe in what's happening.
Yeah.
See, for example, how people react on the tariffs which our president is imposing.
Hmm.
I've seen quite a few UC Berkeley graduates who are saying that tariffs are bad for the economy. And when I'm asking, okay, could you please, having a business degree at UC Berkeley, share with me, why do you believe tariffs are bad? And I I heard some stuff that I'm in a clan, I'm in a club, I drink some sort of drink. I wouldn't remember what that is. Like, oh, okay.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Okay. Well, that doesn't seem to answer your question.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I agree with you about the common sense, and what you also said is that we all do see life through our own filters.
mhm,
Um, and I get that, and I also get, and after receiving these letters and going through what I've gone through just personally, this is a very cliche saying, but hurt people, and it means that when I read these, I feel like maybe they're projecting,
mhm.
and that whatever is going on in their life, they're just projecting that onto me. So that's kind of my takeaway. Although the one of the biggest things that came out of the first letter was also it really ignited the inner Sherlock within me. I want to know who this is. Like I sent it to so many people, seeing if they recognized the handwriting, if there was anything within the letter itself that triggered something for them. Does this handwriting look familiar? I even asked some people, is this your wife or is this your husband? Can you tell the handwriting? Um, Nobody knew, or at least fessed up to knowing who the handwriting, if that they recognized it. So I didn't make any headway there, but the second letter actually gave me some clues. So, and it wasn't until I received the second letter, which was January, that it's really kicked into, oh, now I have a stalker, as opposed to someone who just got so upset with me or disgruntled or irked that they had to say something in one letter. Now, two is the beginning of a pattern. Two means you need to. They're trying to exert control. So that's when I started doing research into what stalking actually is and what
Hmm.
constitutes stalking and all that. Um, but I want to let me see. Uh, the second letter. So the second letter reveals more about the stalker, the person who's disgruntled with me than the first one does. And if I may read that, we're going to get
Please.
a lot more clues. For all of you other inner Sherlock Holmes people out there, maybe you can put your ideas in here. So here's the second letter. You are truly an actor. Thank you. The YouTube BS is not only laughable, but an embarrassment to all mankind, including and especially USC grads. Now, I want to stop here. The YouTube that he's referring to is the one that you and I did, Victor. It's from your California Live podcast, just like this, but it is episode 70, and it's called Inside Hollywood or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Episode 70. And you can put the link below. So people want to see that episode, watch that, and then according to his comments, this is what everything
Hmm.
he says in here has to do with that episode. Okay. So he says, embarrassment to all mankind, including and especially USC grads. Amnesia. 4-year university, you went for 2. Expensive. You owe it all to loans that you will never, ever pay back. This weird guy, that's you, Victor. This weird guy has a fake background just like yours. Why not show the true picture? Are you embarrassed? What kind of place do you live in? Let's see the roommates. Now that would be interesting. You speak as if you are actually in this industry. You are the absolute furthest from it. Are you not embarrassed lying over and over again? We are embarrassed for you. So sad. Your uncomfortable silence between answers is a telltale sign that you are trying to talk yourself into what you're saying or grab it out of thin air. Did this man not prep you with questions? Because it sounds like crazy banter going nowhere. Did you have anyone in your life? Oh, do you have anyone in your life that cares about you and willing to tell you how absurd you sound or how ridiculous, pathetic, and just plain crazy you are acting? How how you lie over and over. It is how you approach life, your words. That's the oddest part. Clearly, no one wants to scratch the surface as they are afraid of the outcome. You must have some serious denial and anger issues when faced with reality. Cluttered mind is an exact description of you. Wake up, old lady. Stop being such a leech. Live a true life. Life is far too short to make a mockery of yourself and whatever precious time we all have on this planet. Stop lying. You have no clue what is going on anywhere, let alone this industry. Imposter should be the hat you wear from now on, not USC.
Well, thank you for bringing me into a little bit of stardom. First of all, I guess. Thank you, Colleen.
You're welcome, Victor.
Thanks to you.
So I have, wait, you can share my stalker.
It's all yours. It's all yours.
So, he makes accusations and he says things that, like I don't know why he thinks he knows these things. He says I went to USC for 2 years. I went for 3 actually. Yes, USC is a 4-year university. I went for 1 year at community colleges in Orange County to get the specific classes that I needed to transfer to be able to apply at USC. And I
Mhm.
applied to many colleges actually. I applied to 8 and I was accepted into 5, and I chose USC out of the 5
Right.
because it was my dream. Um, but yeah, I went for 3 years because I not only got my bachelor's, my regular bachelor's, but I also got 2 minors on top of that, which is what added the 3rd year. Otherwise, it would have been 2.
Right.
So my 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 BA in theater, and then I have 2 minors in screenwriting and cinematic arts. So that's the real life. That's the transparency. There you go. You want answers? I got answers. Um, what else did he say that was so out of it? Like, and the whole thing about why is he so obsessed with me paying back my student loans? There's like millions of people with student loans. And by the way, USC, I love my school. I love my alma mater. I will never say anything about it because they did right by me. And because like everyone else, I put in my application like everyone. I wrote my essays, I sent my transcripts, everything that everyone else did, and I got a full ride scholarship. Like they granted me my tuition. I wouldn't say everything. Like I had to pay for my living expenses and my books and all that kind of stuff, but
Hmm.
um, USC took care of my tuition. So my student loans are for my living expenses mainly and my books and things like that. But I'm one of millions and millions of people who have student loans out there. And yes, it's challenging in today's economy to have that hanging over your head, but so that's part of life. Like I don't know why I'm being singled out or why he feels the need to single me out and why he thinks I would never pay that back. I don't know. I talk about delusion. That's very delusional to me. Um, oh, and then he also, the other thing that I want to address, and then the rest I really don't care. Um, is he said that, why didn't I know my answers and that you surely would have prepped me on the questions. And we've mentioned this before in another podcast. I think we did anyway. That is, Victor never preps me. I mean, he gives me, you give me, you say we're gonna talk on this particular uh, subject or topic,
Or
but
person. Yeah.
and sometimes you even change that at the last minute. So no, there are no prep questions. There's nothing. We're just talking, right? I show up, you ask questions, or I ask questions, and we talk. That's how that goes. So I find it fascinating that those were the things that he zoned in on and had to go to the trouble to write me a letter about it. So it's very interesting.
Well, it means that you are significant enough. And why do you assume that it's a he? Why couldn't
Oh, I
it be
keep
a
saying
she?
that, don't I? It could be a she. I guess I'm just saying it because out of gut instinct. There's no other reason. There's nothing that this person is saying. They never refer to themselves as male, except, and this actually doesn't mean anything either. But when I did my research on stalkers and why I do consider this a stalker, and hate mail is considered stalking. So
Hmm.
I looked that up. That's definitely for sure. Um, so when I did my research, I found out that there are 5 basic kinds of stalkers, and they are rejected, resentful, intimacy seeking, incompetent, and predatory. And of those 5, judging from the content of the letters compared to the description of each from the website that I got this information, I'd say that there's a good chance that I'm dealing with either a rejected stalker or a resentful stalker or a combination of the two. And rejected is exactly what it sounds like. It's someone that perhaps um, tried to engage me, either at USC or maybe even on a dating app. But they mentioned USC so much, and like we at USC, and we are so embarrassed for you and all that. Like it makes me feel um, what was revealed in the second letter is that they too went to USC and maybe at the same time I did. So the years that I was there, that they were there. That's a clue that I think comes through that. So somebody who made advances, and I didn't um, I didn't go out with them, and so they felt rejected. So maybe there's that, and that's why I'm thinking male, but it's neither here nor there. And then resentful is a little more complex. The person, they're typically a stranger, someone you don't know, but they feel like they somehow are mistreated or some way misled. And there are feelings of injustice and humiliation that goes with the resentful type of
Hmm.
stuff. Um, and then sometimes paranoia is included in all that. And then that's just a big mix of severe mental illness. Um, and if you think about it, there's something a little off, right? If somebody's actually stalking you and they're exhibiting these behaviors that they're not um, exhibiting mental health. There is a website that I want to include in this. It's stalkingriskprofile.com. And you can go on there and see what stalking is and the types of stalkers. You can get the full list and get the descriptions there if you're interested. Um, but I guess at the end of the day, you say, so what good does knowing all this? Like why do all this research into stalking and stalkers and the types? What good does that do? And in the end, why do we research anything? It's to become more knowledgeable and to have understanding. And it helps me understand why they may have acted out, and therefore have more compassion. The only way we're ever going to build a better world is to get to the bottom of the overly aggressive behavior that is out there and root it out and bring it to the light. And maybe the hurt and the pain can also come to the light, and that's where it gets healed, is out in the open. And you know that at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, is for healing, and that we can take a look at these things, be more prepared for ourselves when they happen to us, but also for healing to happen.
Hmm.
um, i I would definitely take more precautions, and I am taking more precautions than I ever have before. Stalking is about the need of the stalker to maintain a sense of control over their victim's actions and feelings, and the desire to maintain some kind of a connection. So if that helps in figuring out who you think may be doing it to you, I've given this a lot of thought. I still don't know who it is, although I have somebody in mind. More recently, somebody came to mind, and I'm not going to say, I'm not naming names, and I'm not calling anybody out because that's not what this is about. But I think I know who it might be. Interesting. Um, and I want to read this last little piece here. I wrote this down because this came across as like a legal way of knowing. If you're wondering if you're receiving some kind of somebody's interest in you or behavior toward you, is it really stalking? Is it not? Are they just being weird? It comes down to this: whether you're receiving hate mail on or off the internet, it's up to you to determine your level of alarm and distress. This is the legal part, there is a minimal level of alarm and distress that a victim must perceive before it becomes criminal, and only you
Hmm.
can determine that. So you have to be aware about your level of alarm and distress. And honestly, um, these don't disturb me that much. I mean, I'm very curious and a little bewildered at them, but I don't feel, at least at this point, the person has not said anything that makes me feel scared. I don't feel scared. So, um,
Well, that's been interesting. Uh,
do you feel
when
scared?
do I feel? No, no. You know, um, it's not about me. Uh, first
I
of
know.
all, um, we can joke and make up things to just make it into a little comedy, which sometimes we have to make life funnier. But have you ever thought about this person? um, could he or she be a person maybe kicked out of USC?
Oh.
So he or she still believes that he or she is the USC community representative. Um, and for some reason, well, I would assume that you were one of the USC's prominent students in your um, majors and minors.
Mhm. Yeah. I graduated, my grade point average at USC was 3.88. So I was at one of the top of my class. But
So,
that's kinda common at USC too. Yeah.
well, if someone believes that, a lot of people right now they feel that they own the whole world, and
Mm,
we will owe them, right? And then they get kicked out,
mm,
and they would probably project their anger at a prominent student. Plus, if
sure.
there was something romantic, whether it's a he or a she, again, it's Hollywood, it's LA, we never know.
Right.
Um,
Can't
you're
assume anything.
yeah, you're getting a bunch of combinations of this projected anger,
Yeah.
jealousy, and all these characteristics you just mentioned
Mhm.
combined. Um, you see, USC was mentioned quite a few times in the second letter.
Yeah.
So it seems like, again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a detective, but it just seemed to me that that was something major for a person. Uh,
I got that feeling too.
mhm,
Yeah, definitely. And the attributes that you talked about, the characteristics, you mentioned jealousy, and there's a whole list. We can put them up on screen after this if you want to, Victor.
mhm,
But there's like a whole list of characteristics that fall in line for stalkers, and jealousy is definitely one of them. They're compulsive. They can fall instantly in love, manipulative. I'm going to read just some of these because they go along with what you just said. Difficulty distinguishing between fantasy and reality. A sense of entitlement. You owe me. That kind of mindset. Unable to cope with rejection. Um, let's see. Socially awkward or uncomfortable, needing to have control over others. So those are just a few of the things that come across for people who fall into the stalker category, the types and the type of attributes that they display.
mhm.
And here's the one that I thought was great because this, if anyone out there is listening and they are the stalker, they're going to like this part. It says, may be of above average intelligence.
Well, that's quite a compliment.
Yes. So all you criminal mind stalkers out there, we know you're smart.
Well, above average, it's above average.
Above average, yeah. Okay. Um, so that's the whole stalking thing, and I feel like the thing that we can do with that, and I want to get into the romance scam next,
Hmm.
but it's just about being more aware of your presence online. And the thing is I have chosen to be transparent in my online world. And I opened my Facebook account and my Instagram, I guess, together to be public last year because I felt like I'm a creative putting myself out there and I want to be found by other creatives. I'm a writer, actor, producer. I'm a project manager. I am a life coach and I'm a spiritual advisor. And I have all these different um, ways in which that I engage with people in
Hmm.
real life and online. And I felt that it would behoove me to open myself up to a public profile so that I could people could find me. And that's when all of this started happening. That's when the romance scams and the or any kind of scamming. I think you just open yourself up when you're open to the public at large, which is a little scary. You just take on more. it's like, there's more crime in a big city because there's more people, like the ratio is higher. So yeah, there's going to be more crime because there's a heck of a lot more people in a little tiny space. And I
Right.
think it's the same on the internet. Is um, the bigger our presence becomes and the more outreach that we have, the more lives we touch with our presence, the more likelihood of something like this happening. So it's just to be mindful about
Mhm.
how we conduct ourselves and allowing people in who we allow in to our space. So I guess that's my public service announcement there.
Well, that makes sense, and definitely, let's send a little warning to everyone. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, we do have to be mindful of who we talk to on the internet. And at the end, I'm definitely going to go over a lot of that. But um, so the thing with the romance scam is so fascinating to me. It's one of those things that I never thought it would happen to me because we think we're too smart. We think I would know better. Oh, I'd know. I'd recognize it. I wouldn't fall for that. But these people who do it are so good at it, and they are professional. And what was so shocking about this, we just talked about being uh, aware of what happens on the internet, and especially our presence, and to kind of be a little more protective and be careful. But what if the one person, one special person in this online community that brought a smile to your face every time that they messaged you, the one that you felt that really saw you for you, the one that you eventually came to love? What if they turned out to be a complete fraud, as ethereal as smoke and as deceptive as a hall of mirrors? That everything that you thought was real is no longer real.
mhm,
So that's that's kind of the background that pretty much everybody experiences when they are victims of a romance scam, or the one that goes along with this. It's very similar. It can be crossed over with a romance scam, but it's the crypto scam. So somebody becoming your friend, really getting it tight with you, and then they start introducing you to investing in crypto with them. So that's the second highest. So the romance scams and the crypto scams are like the highest grossing scams on the internet right now. Um, but I want to get into the actual what happened to me before I start talking about what I learned.
mhm,
Um, so, like many people, I have a Facebook profile. Mine's open, and I have people reach out to me all the time that I don't know, and try to make a connection. It'll be usually it's a gentleman. It's not always gentleman, but it's usually a man reaching out. Saying hi, what are you doing? How are you? Just that first initial hello. I want to, be friends with you or whatever.
mhm,
And 99.999% of the time I go, no, I don't know you from Adam. I no. I always look at them, I look at their background, I check it out, but most of the time I say no. This one time. It intrigued me because the name was not in English. It wasn't in an alphabet that I recognized. It was in Cyrillic. It was a Cyrillic alphabet, and I could tell it wasn't Russian, but it felt Slavic or something. So I looked at the letters and I did my research, and I thought, oh, this looks like Bulgarian. So when the guy he just said hi. And I said, "Hey, hi. Just curious, are you Bulgarian? It looked like your name was Bulgarian." He goes, "Yeah, yeah, I am Bulgarian." Um, and I said, "Wow, that's cool. I something about the letters, something about how they looked, really drew me in. It wasn't even his profile or his picture. It was just that, and I was just curious. It was a curiosity. So we just started chatting, very innocuous, very, nothing much to it. Like, how's your day going? That kind of stuff. But pretty quickly, he started establishing a rapport. And what I didn't realize was happening is they have a playbook. So the scammers actually have uh, a manual that they follow.
Wow.
And they have page by page of a playbook, what to say, exactly what to say on what day. On day one, you talk about this and you ask these questions. On day two, you tell them about yourself and this. On day three, you tell them about the tragedy that's happened in your life. Like, they have an approach to it that is masterful. So what they do is they create a rapport, and then they start talking to you about something that you have in common, or they ask you questions about something that they've already done the research on you. They've looked at your profile, they've looked at all your posts, they have researched you. So you are the target. You are the what do you call that? The victim of a scam is a mark. You're the mark. So um, they do all their research, and then they start asking you questions about something that they know is near and dear to your heart. So with mine, he was asking me about chakras and about balancing your chakras and what does it mean, and if we're emotionally unbalanced. And he's asking about stuff that's in my jam. I love I've done I was in the spa industry for 20 years, so I've done a lot of work in the medical metaphysical world, and balancing the body, mind, and spirit, all kinds of ways of doing that. The chakra system is very clear to me. I teach classes on it. So he was asking me about this, and I thought, well, this is really cool. Someone who's has the same interest that I have, and that's what they do is they find something that you like and love, and they start asking you questions. They create a bond, and they do that for a while, and then what they do is they tell you about themselves. And it's usually a sad story, and it has tragedy in it. And what they then do, so they pull on your heartstrings, they make you feel bad for them. Like, you go, oh, that's really sad. I'm really sorry you went through that, kind of thing. And now your heart is starting to be engaged. Then they say, "Well, I'm really hoping, I'm looking for someone." The guy who was coming after me said, "I just really wanna find somebody who's honest and true and pure,
Mhm.
because the last person in my life done me wrong, and they did this and this and this." And I'm like, "Oh, that's so sad." And so they start manipulating you emotionally from the very beginning. Once they create the rapport, they start manipulating you emotionally. And then they set the goal. So they create hope. Like, I really feel like everything that you're talking about and this feeling I get from you feels like you would never do that to me. And I'm like, well, of course I wouldn't do that to you, because I'm thinking I'm an honest person. I'm upfront, I'm transparent. Um, and they create the hope. They talk about the hope that being with you gives them, like you've made a change in their life, that your presence is like saving them on an emotional level. And then they create the goal. And the goal is always something in the future that they're working toward. Oh, like, I really see us being together. Um, like, we could create the most incredible life together. And they start the planning and creating the happily ever after um,
Right.
vibes, right? Um, and then that's the pattern. So no matter who it is, no matter what the details are, it kind of doesn't matter. They follow that pattern so that you get emotionally involved. And the whole time they're telling you how much they love you, how beautiful you are. They send you photographs constantly, photos and like little memes of love and romance and all that stuff. So what they do, and what this guy did, is they lead you up so far without giving away hardly anything. Like, the first week is all very friendly, creating the rapport, creating the bond. And then they say, it's just so much easier for me if we can move this off the Facebook platform and if we could communicate on WhatsApp. And I have friends from foreign countries, and so to me it was like, oh, sure, no big deal. I know a lot of people use WhatsApp when you're in Europe, and if you go from country to country, it makes it so much easier than you don't text on your real phone, and the you have to be on the internet to be able to use Facebook or Instagram or anything like that to message. So they move you to WhatsApp, and that's when they get you, and they start in. So what I want to say is one of the red flags that happens very quickly is they rush to emotions and I'm in love with you. They will say I love you probably within a week or close to it. And then everything they do after that is supporting that, their love. They text you nonstop, they're communicating with you all the time. This went on for 6 weeks, I'm gonna say. And I got to the point where I I had no reason to doubt any of this. He presented himself as a civil engineer. And that's one of the red flags. I didn't know this until after I did all the research. But there are certain jobs that they will use over and over again. Civil engineer is one of them. Anything that keeps them out of the country, keeps them kind of sequestered and secure on a job somewhere far away from you that you can't see them or get to them, and that they can move around the world doing something where they would, be able to do that. So it puts them in a realm where they're not accessible unless when they want to be accessible.
Right.
So there was a 9 hour time difference, and then there was an 11-hour time difference. When I first started talking to him, he was in Poland, yeah,
Hmm.
Warsaw, and then his job took him to Istanbul, Turkey, and I would get videos of the construction site. I would get pictures of his assistants. I would get all these things. Everything he sent me was corroborating um, his story. He showed me a picture of him at the airport when he flew from Poland to Istanbul, Turkey. So I had no reason to doubt. And then the other thing is that we actually talked on the phone. Never video. See, that's one of the red flags. They will never FaceTime you or do a video call. They'll talk, but that's it. And they'll send photos, but they create the photos. This is one of the insidious parts of it too, is because we're dealing with high-end crime and they're making so one of the shows that I watched, which is actually very worthwhile to watch. It's an episode of John Oliver's Last Week Tonight show, and it's titled Pig Butchering, because that's what the U.S. government, or just the people involved in these scams, has called it. It's a horrible name, but what it stands for is that you're the little piglet. And what they're doing is they're fattening you up and nurturing you and caring for you until you get big and fat and trusting, and then they go in for the kill. And then they drain you of all your resources. If the scam works and it continues to its end, then you send them money until you run out, or you realize it's a scam and you say no, and then they cut you off.
Right.
So so what happened is he led me along and everything was wonderful. And honestly, Victor, I have never been so happy. I really fell hard and I was in love. And I was happy and I was joyous and my days were great. And I kept imagining this future we were going to have together. And it actually motivated me because feeling that way about someone, having so much love inside of myself, it motivated me to start looking at the things going on in my life and how I could change it for the better. I became more active. I started working out more. I decided that I was going to change my trajectory and redo my resume and start looking for work in a different sector. Like all
Hmm.
these, like some really positive things came out of it. But in the end, what happened was in his plans that he was going to move here to the United States so that we could be together, he had a car that he wanted to bring with him and that he didn't want to leave behind. And I was like, that sounds like a lot of trouble to ship a car. Why wouldn't you just sell it and then buy a new car once you got here? But oh, no, no, this car is special. He wants to keep this car. And I'm like, okay, well, it's on you. Like, if that's what you want to do, fine. And he asked me to help him with the logistics with the shipping company since I would be receiving the car. It would get here before he would. Um, they needed to know who I was and my information that I would be receiving it. And he says, "Tell them you're my wife. That way there won't be any questions." I'm like, okay, fine. I did that. I started having a conversation with the shipping company. I looked them up, by the way. They have an actual website, but it's a transportation, it's a delivery company, and it wasn't necessarily, they didn't like specialize in delivering cars. So that was a little fishy to me, and I made comment about it. And there were a lot of little red flags, not huge ones, but little ones that I saw along the way that because I was so happy and because I believed everything that as far as who he was and what was happening between us, because I had been hypnotized into this belief, I noticed it. They were little red flags, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt on each one. And I even joked about it. Like on this, I said, "Hey, I looked up that shipping company and they look like they deliver parcels, not cars." I said, "What are they going to wrap it in brown paper and string and ship it to me?" And he laughed and I laughed. It's like, ha ha ha. He goes, "No, no, no. I've worked with them before. They'll do it for me." Okay. It's one of those things like, really? But then you go, all right, like you take it all in stride. The point is that at the end of the day, I did all the work. I got the information about the car. I said, I've been emailing with them. They tell me that everything that they've received so far is fine. They can do it. And here's how much it's going to cost. And it was 4,750 US dollars. And I sent him that information. I said, okay, here you go. This is what they said it's going to cost. And he says, oh, I thought you were going to pay for that. And I'm like, what? He says, well, you said you were willing to help me and take care of this. And I'm thinking, well, I meant like facilitate, not pay for it. And he says, no, you said you were going to do this. It's for us. You need to pay this. I don't have it. I don't have that money right now. I can't get to my cash. He told me he had €1 million in a savings. That was his retirement, but he couldn't get to it. And he hadn't gotten paid from his last job, even though he had moved on to his new job. He was waiting on his final payment, so he didn't have any cash to do it. So he had all these reasons, right, for not being
Hmm.
able to do it. And I said, well, I don't know what to tell you, but I don't have the money either. Like I was using all these American phrases like, have you ever heard the term you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip? Like if it's not there, it's not there. And finally, he was getting so frustrated. He goes, well, work it out. Like, can't you go to your bank? Can't you, use this, do that? I said, look, I even asked them if I could use a credit card because I was wary, but I thought, well, if I use a credit card and I find out it's a scam, I'll just have them stop the payment on the credit card. And the shipping company said, oh, no, we don't, only wire transfers, only cash, Western Union or wire transfer, whatever. And I said, they only take cash and I don't have it. So can't you sell? And then I started trying to problem solve for him. Can't you, have somebody else look after your car? Can't you do this, do that? And it was no to everything. And then finally he just came right out and just said, basically, get the damn money and send it to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, now that's a very different tone than anything I've heard before. Okay, yeah, that red flag was like, okay. Um, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. And then um, it was like right after that happened, I saw my girlfriend and I told her, I said, he's asking me to pay for this. And she goes, okay, that's it. I can't hold it back anymore. I've got to tell you. She goes, from the get go, I had my doubts. I just didn't want to spoil you and your little bubble of happiness. She says, but I've done the research and here it is. And she literally laid out in front of me all of these reports, all of this online information. She typed into Google, like the AI version of Google, and said romance scam ship car. And there was a whole litany of what this scam was and what the bullet points were. It was literally verbatim of what had happened in my relationship and what he had asked and how he had asked him. It was that moment when my eyes were like saucers, and I'm like, oh my god. So that was the defining moment where I knew for sure. So the little red flags that I'd noticed along the way, the fact that he's Bulgarian, and when we talked on the phone and when he first messaged me on Facebook, his English was very broken. And then when we got on WhatsApp, all of a sudden, he's got like perfect English. And his responses are very in tune to mine. Like in the ilk of, if I'm talking in metaphysical terms, he's answering me in metaphysical terms. If I'm saying, oh, I can't even think, like just terms that we would use. So what you can do that I didn't know until now, but on WhatsApp, they have a little special button, an AI button that you can push. If you don't know how to answer someone, you push the AI button and AI will write your response for you.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it takes into account the discussion that you've had thus far.
Hmm.
So what happened during the 6 weeks that I was falling in love is I was actually falling in love with me, because the AI that he was using to respond to me was shaping the answers based on my personality, my choice of words, who I came across as, my attributes. And then it was being mirrored back to me, not exactly, but in a way where I felt so completely seen, so understood at such a deep level. And it wasn't until after the fact that I realized that I was being scammed, that all of this, like, it was like one of those moments where you like, not like your life flashes before your eyes, but it all became clear. Like, boom, I could see it all at once.
Right. The aha moment, something like that.
It's the aha moment. And it's like,
Hmm.
oh my God. So I learned a lot. I did a lot of research. I learned a lot. That pig butchering video by John Oliver has so much information on it. This is where I learned that these romance scams, which by the way are huge business, between the romance and the crypto scams, it's a $3.3 billion industry, and that number was from 2022. So 3 years ago, that's how much money they were making. And it
Wow.
started in COVID, and it started with the Chinese cartels and the Chinese crime syndicates who used to run the big gambling houses in Asia,
Hmm.
all over Southeast Asia. And because COVID, everything got shut down. And so the big bosses weren't making their money. And they said, well, we can't have that. We have to find another way to to scam people, to rip them off, to make money. And they developed these scams, these romance scams. So what you have was this perfect storm of everybody being sequestered. We're lonely. We're at home. We're not talking to. We're not being physically being with other people. And um, and most of these scams, by the way, also target older, 50 and older, the generations, because they have money generally, especially older single um, women mainly, but men too have also gotten scammed. There's just as many women doing this as men out there. And uh, I learned that these crime syndicates set up, they're like call centers, like telemarketers. They all are given these manuals. But what's so awful about this, and I, it's like I would have felt better if I could have gotten really angry and like just really mad at the person who did this to me. But more than likely, they are a victim as well, because what these crime syndicates have done is they Shanghai and they kidnap these people who think they're coming in for a regular job interview, and then they get sucked into this program and they're held at gunpoint and they have to work 16 to 18 hours a day, having multiple victims at one time and working these people to get the money out of them. And I played a long game. It was a 6-week investment for him to not get anything out of me. By the way, I'm spoiler alert, I didn't send him anything, right? So I did not get scammed except that I got heartbroken. Like my sense of what I thought was happening in my life, um, it was false. It was fake. It was a non-reality. And I mentioned this to you when I first told you about this, Victor. I felt very much like Jim Carrey's character in The Truman Show, the 1998 movie The Truman Show, which if you haven't seen, I highly recommend you see. But he has an existential crisis because his whole life, everything that he knew, he found out was a fake. It was not real. It was a show. And And that's how I felt when I found out that my whole life, the last 6 weeks of my life, everything I felt, everything I thought, my visions of the future, they were all fake and they weren't real. So it was quite an adjustment for me emotionally and mentally. Like it really broke my psyche for a few days. Um, and it's been a month since that happened. And I feel like the progress that I've made and how far I've come in a month is truly remarkable. But um, what I what what I'd like to move on to and talk about, unless you have any questions. Do you have any questions for me, Victor? Like about the experience or anything that happened or
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll get to my questions, but go ahead. I don't want to break the flow, you
okay.
know.
Well, um, I think so the things that I felt were the shock, the embarrassment, the disbelief, and it is traumatic to be shown that everything that you think is real is not real. It's hugely traumatic. Um, my spirit was broken. And because I'm a very spiritual person and I prayed a lot during this time and I did meditation and everything that I was doing with this person in mind felt so positive. I never once got any negative feedback from my prayers or my meditations or my card readings that I would do or anything where it would have alerted me like, oh, you got to watch out, danger, danger, Will Robinson. I didn't get any of that. So now I'm doubting my spiritual connection. I'm doubting what I know about reality and everything. So so that was super challenging. And it took me a good week or two to just get to the point where I could move past that and start thinking about what I could do that was positive, which is the public service announcement. Um, there is one line uh, in The Truman Show. Um, I went back and looked at the trailer, and this one line from the trailer of the show stood out to me. And it's Ed Harris's character. He plays the director in it. And he said, we accept the reality with which we are presented. So when you think, oh, how could people be so stupid to fall for these things? They create a reality that we're presented with, and we believe it. And it's really just that simple. And they're very, very good at their jobs and what they do. Um, so I want to address this next part to, let's see, this down. Okay, so I did research into how it affects the victims, like the victims of romance scam, and getting past it, what the healing part is like. Because once we realize that it is a scam and that everything we thought was real is not real, and all that. There's shame and embarrassment that comes with it. And even though that $3.3 billion figure is what the authorities know about, I guarantee you there's probably twice that of people who haven't come forward because they're too ashamed that they got taken. And especially when it comes to love, right? That we were so, how could I be so naive, right? And I want to say one of the things that I really want to promote with this is that if you have been a victim of this type of crime, and it is a crime, and you're the victim of a crime, you are not at fault. Do not blame yourself. They are the criminals. You are not. It's really important to start with that. But the impact of having gone through something like this, romance scams inflict deep emotional wounds, including feelings of betrayal and shame, anger, grief, and loss of trust in ourselves and trust in everything around us. Victims experience symptoms very similar to those of post traumatic stress disorder. And if you do fall for it, and you go the 9 yards and you do send the money, then there's the financial loss can be devastating. I mean, this one woman that I mentioned earlier living out of her car in San Diego, she has nothing. She gave away everything, her entire life savings, everything, to the point where she doesn't even have a place to live. She's living out of her car. So it could be devastating, lead to debt, anxiety, insecurity. And then the loss of trust. I mean, that's actually quite huge because trusting others just in general, like I talked earlier about being mindful on the internet. I think that there is a balance we need to find between losing complete trust of yourself, which I think is more dangerous, and being careful with your online presence and what we do out in the world. So that's just something to think about. Um, so there are things that we can do to aid in healing. One thing I want to say is that any kind of healing of a loss and grieving, because you lost what the dream was. You had a dream with this person. You lost that. So there is a grieving process. And that's the key word, that it's a process. It's not an event. It's not like, okay, day 5, I get over it and then I move on. Like, you have to allow yourself to go through it. Um, so they say that acknowledgement and validating feelings, seek support, get therapy, which is a sign of strength, not weakness. Talk to trusted friends and family. Focus on self-care, and then rebuild your trust gradually. Know that it's going to take time and allow that. And do the proactive thing about enhancing online security. Um, when I read that, what their suggestions were, I thought of it. I put it in terms of be like your own protective father. If you had a father protecting his daughter, you you know how strict he would be. Like, you have to be that in your own mind, is be your own protective father. Seek And if you have lost money, seek assistance with financial recovery. And then finally, really educate yourself. I think this of everything, because I did so much research and I feel very educated and because of that, empowered. And I think that's also what's helped me through this process of coming out of it so positively within a month, is I really dove headfirst into the deep end of empowering myself through education. So educate yourself about the tactics, and that will help prevent any kind of future experiences that you might have. These people are professionals. They know how to manipulate the mind and the psyche and your heartstrings. And they use methods that have been perfected over years. It's not your fault. And they're the criminals. So that's what I want to say about that. So Victor, what are your questions? What do you want to ask?
Well, first question would be, have you ever thought of a connection between the two letters that you got and this person on Facebook?
No. No, I haven't. Um Because the person on Facebook, well, I guess these letters could be written by AI as well, but the person on Facebook, I had phone conversations with him. Um, and he definitely had a Bulgarian accent and it was broken English. So even though I know how he did it online, I'm not. It just doesn't feel. I don't think so. There's nothing in there to me that connects these for me. Like I don't see it. I don't see the connection. So.
Now, when you were, um, obviously, I would want to say, sorry, you had to experience that. But I also believe that stories are for the weak, and you're not one of them.
No.
So I'm glad that you've not contributed to the industry. You saved your $5,000.
Yes.
I've been there, but not online.
Mm,
And I've experienced living off the car,
mm,
and that was a great eye opener. But to me, I think that was like a necessary lesson.
mm.
And just like you said, working with a psychologist and dive into the reasons of
Yeah.
my own self, I think that was a great lesson. And I think that, again, I'm not projecting because everyone would have probably a different story. But um, if there was no substance in me, or even though I could say, oh, I'm so cool, independent, whatever, blah blah blah. If there was nothing that I would have, or other person would have dreamed or thought of
Hmm.
inside, and there was nothing for them to catch,
Right.
right? So even though it's a crime and stuff like that, I don't think I would need to blame anyone except for me in this case. And quite a few things we're getting from our parents, our childhood. So um, we can't live in this life and think everything is cool if we're not taking care of our body physically and also spiritually, and working off our all little bugs. It's um, it's a must
Yeah.
do. Um, um, we I think quite often we would, at least I can blame myself for some wishful thinking, which I used to have in the past, not anymore. Wishful thinking, expectations. When you learn to get rid of that stuff, yeah. One COVID hit, I got quite a few Asian profiles knocking on my Facebook, and also
Mm,
inviting to get on WhatsApp. But to me, my social media is always business. Like, what's your inquiry? You have any business inquiries? You email our company.
yeah.
Mm, but what you just said just made sense to me, because I remember Asian-looking profiles, mainly ladies, would try to make a connection. Then, hey, let's move to WhatsApp. Nope. Even
Yeah.
on LinkedIn, quite a few people are jumping on LinkedIn and asking some questions.
Yes, they are. I know a couple of people that have they people have tried to scam them in the same manner, but starting in LinkedIn, and they'll try anything. Like
Yeah.
these scammers, they will go anywhere and do anything, and it's the importance of online safety and security, and how we need to use, like you're talking about, our clarity and our discernment. And I wrote something. I want to find it because oh, here, right in front of me. Oh. Um so I said you were not to blame, and you said, well, the only one you have to blame is yourself. Like I think they're both right. It's not your fault that you got scammed or hurt in that way. However, um being a victim of a crime does not make you a victim in life.
Yeah.
And I think that um distinguishing those two is really, really important. Like, like when someone harms you, that's a reality. So to say I'm not a victim if somebody, honks you on the head or takes your money or, does something to you, no, you are a victim of that crime. And victim is just the term we use, like
Yeah.
perpetrator and victim, right? So, however, like being in victimhood, which means you're holding on to your victimness, I think that's the problem. I think that's where people can really fall short of their empowered state, is staying in there and keep reliving it and keep telling that same story over and over again. Well, I'm at where I'm at. I'm not, doing my best because this happened to me, right? It's like, okay, well, it's not happening to you now, right? So to move beyond that state of victimhood is what I hear you talking about, and it is very powerful. And that's something else I wanted to say. It's like, grieve the loss, have the grief, allow it to, work through it through therapy, do what you need to do, and then let go of it and move on.
In my specific case, I guess I wouldn't call it a grief. I think it could be more appropriate term to say intoxication,
Mm,
because you were fed with this illusion, and even when you see it's damaging you, it's killing you, and you still keep doing it, it's just,
yeah,
like drugged.
it's
And
like, yeah,
then
it's an addiction, right?
yeah,
Yeah, it can
and then I
become like an
remember
addiction.
yeah, the 3 days of that um cleansing process, I would say, right? That was like, whoa, challenging. But luckily my willpower is powerful. No,
That's good,
but
that's wonderful, Victor.
it's it's everywhere. Even, well, I only saw positive things. Like, okay, if I missed a punch, again, I'm not a victim. Okay, it's just a missed a punch, so I have to train my defense better. But now that I missed a punch, I know how it feels. So next time, if I miss a punch, I don't really care. You know? Okay, you know. So I just take it with a lot of humor, especially on myself, because that was kind of stupid.
Yeah.
And it's quite. You mentioned that you had a friend who, once you mentioned the money, she opened up the whole.
Yes. Yes.
Why do these friends keep waiting? In my case, that was the same thing. They would, oh, we didn't want to tell you to not upset you. Like, bro, you call yourself a friend, and you
Well,
saw that, and you know,
okay, so there's two sides of that coin, I think. And that is, oh, there's a hummingbird right outside my window. That's so sweet. Um, there's the two sides to that are, it's still your life, and we are sovereign beings and we make our own decisions. So in the end, we're the only ones responsible for, what happens to us.
yeah,
They tried to tell me.
okay,
I even had this one girlfriend who, all of them, bar none, all of them said, "Oh, be careful, I don't know, something about that." And at one point, I'd heard it so many times. I was so sick of having my friends tell me, "I don't, that doesn't feel good. Be careful, tread lightly," and all that stuff. I literally told her to F off, because I wanted to keep that feeling, like, it in my heart of hearts. I knew it was real. I just felt so strongly and so convicted, which is a lot like an addict that says, no, it's mine, you can't take this from me, don't take my drug from me.
yeah,
This drug feels really good. um and looking back on it, I could see my behavior was just like that. And so, yeah, they did try to warn me, but they also understood I had to see it for myself, and when the money came involved, that's when it was like, okay, like, I'm not waiting I'm not going to wait for you to give him money. I'm going to, now that you've mentioned he's asked, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you everything. Um, you know, in the end, it is up to us. We do make our decisions. We are sovereign beings.
hmm.
Um, and would you have listened if your friend had told you when you were in the middle of your intoxication? Would you have listened?
Well, I would have told you if that happened. My guess would be yes, um, because I was to me, it would have been like a sign of distraction, because I
Okay.
was so intoxicated in one direction, I didn't see anything on the side. And
Okay.
that could have been, it's a theory, right?
Right.
Uh, Something to distract me from there, and hey, look,
So like
right?
breaking the focus.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
breaking the
yeah,
focus on something. Possibly. I just know that when I heard it from my girlfriends, I was not having it. They tried to warn me, and I was like, "Nope, don't rain on my parade." I love my parade way too much. Um, so that's how deep these things can go, and yeah, in the end, we're still responsible for our actions. And the beauty of that word responsibility, it simply means the ability to respond. I am response able. Um, and people kind of run when they hear that word, which is interesting. Like I think there's a little bit of trauma that comes from childhood when the mom comes out and says to the kids, "Okay, who's responsible for this mess? Who's responsible?" And everybody goes, "Not me. It was him." But the truth is it's incredibly empowering, so that if you are response able, it means that you can respond to any given situation. You have the capability to respond. I am able to respond, and
right,
that's powerful. So um I don't mind the responsibility. I don't mind that it falls on my shoulders, and that all of this in the end is they were all my choices. It was all me going through it and doing it. But because I didn't really know about this to the level that I know about it now, and how insidious the s- the the scam is, the breaking of reality, and getting you to buy into that reality. It really is very hypnotizing. So the word you use, intoxicating, I call it hypnotizing. It really draws you in. And there are a couple of links for those if anybody has been a victim of either the stalking or the online scams. There's two government sites that I want to cite. It's one is called the Internet Crime Complaint Center, and it's www.ic3, the number 3.gov. And then the other one is the Federal Trade Commission, where you report crimes, and that's the ftc.gov, federal trade. And I think on their landing page is a link somewhere in there that says, report a crime or report fraud. I think report fraud is on there. So if you scammed or fraud has come into it, then you should definitely report it.
yeah. Well, at least that hopefully will make someone feel better, I guess. uh, I personally don't really believe those agencies would be able to do anything, if even if they wanted.
Maybe
um,
not, but but I will tell you one of the pieces of information that my friend found, that she showed me, that was part of the mechanism that broke through my delusion of thinking that this was true love, and being able to see that it was a scam. Is we typed in, I kind of forced his hand because he was saying so many things and he was being very evasive. And I said, you know what? If something were to happen, and something happened to my phone or your phone, the only way that we have of communicating with each other or finding each other is through our telephone numbers. I said, I don't know where you live. I don't know where you're staying. I don't know the company you work for. There's so many things about the situation that I don't know, and I'm not going to feel comfortable until you give me that information. And he
mhm.
says, "Oh yeah, no problem. I'll get that to you." And then he didn't, and I called him on it, and he said, "Why are you being so?" I go, I was like forceful, like, "You need to get this to me. You need to get it to me now. You told me you would, so do it." So he sends me this information, and the name of the company that he said he was working for, we typed it in. Tara did her sleuthing, and it came up that in 2005 there had been so many allegations. So we're talking about just the number of allegations against this company for older adults over 50 being scammed, that the US government did a report on them.
Hmm.
So we think that nothing is happening. We put our information in there, but if enough people do it and there are enough commonalities and they find that, then that's when they can something, it creates a pattern and it creates a trigger, and then bigger things happen. Then they put money toward it, and then maybe they go after the guy or the system. But the truth is, like this one in the pig butchering video on John Oliver, they actually talked to a gentleman who had happened to him, where he was shanghaied and he was held at gunpoint and made to do these scams, but he escaped. So he was able
Hmm.
to talk about it and be interviewed about it. And um, he said that his first instinct was to go to the local police, but they're in on it too because they get paid off.
Hmm.
They're, the cartels and these people, the drug syndicate, not drugs, but the crime syndicates are making so much money, they just pay off the local authorities. So, yeah, they're probably not going to get shut down, but I think what will happen, it's just that everything goes in cycles. We need to educate ourselves so thoroughly that and educate everyone out there. And that's the other reason I wanted to do this, is I want just more information to go out there, reach more people. If enough people understand these scams, then they're not going to work anymore, right? So they'll have to move on to something else. They'll have to figure something else out and move on to something else, which they will, because that's the nature of it. But at least this one will get shut down. And then part of that is empowering people with knowledge. Enough people know that they're not going to get scammed anymore, but also understanding the self-love component in all this is having enough, trusting yourself enough and your own gut instincts, because there were red flags, and I even brought them up, which can be seen in some of my texts with him, where I question things and I'm like, that doesn't make sense, like what he said. And I'd say that. And he'd have an answer and I go, yeah, but, and then he'd have an answer, and and then I just kind of went, he's a guy from another, like I went to the place of giving him the benefit of the doubt because he was from another country, English wasn't his first language, all these things. I went, oh, okay, don't do that. Trust your gut, trust your instincts. If your intuition says something ain't right, I don't know, my spidey senses are telling me something's not right, then trust that. Trust yourself. Have enough self-love and trust in your own intuition to follow through on those gut instincts.
Um, also probably the big reason behind um, that these scams work is that people are seeking for something online versus real life. I'm not
Mm,
saying that you can't be scammed in real life. I mean, I'm the example, but I have personally heard quite a few ladies that they would go on a dating app to
mhm.
find someone instead of I don't know, maybe that's a fear of in person communication or self um, doubt or whatever. I can just be guessing,
Yeah.
but if we could somehow motivate people to stay off the online thing, even though it could be described in such a beautiful picture, and still try the old school way, the
Right.
real way.
Well, I got
There's no
off.
guarantee,
Yeah,
yeah, but
I'm done with the dating apps. I was on there. I'd never done a dating app in my life until 2019. And I was in school. I was in my last year at USC, and I had eschewed dating at all, any kind of relationship for the whole time I was in school because I wanted to focus on my studies. And I went, okay, finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe I can open myself up, go on a few dates, have some fun, and and who knows, meet some nice people. So I'd never been on dating apps until that time. Always the old school way. It's all I knew. But when COVID hit, and then the aftermath of COVID, I think one of the reason people have stuck with the online dating is it's in the society that we have now, and the way that people, we don't have the workplace where we meet people. Everybody's working, not everybody, but a good deal of people are working from home. They're remote. So many things we do remotely now, so many activities we do on the computer, that if we don't, use that tool, it is much more challenging to meet people in real life. It's definitely more challenging. I think we can do it, and I think it would help us all tremendously if we would get back to that. you know um, One of the things I would suggest, because I'm a problem solver, so what I hear is make a suggestion. um, you know there are apps like Bright or something. I
Eventbrite,
think
yeah.
Eventbrite, Meetup, these things that they host these group events, that go to those things. Like find one that's about hiking, or find one that's about flower arranging, or find one that's about bowling, or whatever, something that interests you that you like, and then go and meet people in real life that have the same interests. I think that is a much healthier way to use the internet and use the apps, but not to find the person, but to find the activities where you find the person. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, but it's the norm. And it used to be we would meet people at work, or in the old days, my God, we would go to the clubs and dancing, and then you, or a bar or something, and you go with a girlfriend or two or three, and then you hope you meet boys, hope you meet a guy.
That's one of the ways. I also like the old school way of introducing, right? When the
Right.
families would introduce. Um,
I agree.
well, we never know what's coming up tomorrow. We can only do our best, and with our media platform, we can try to help people.
Yes.
Um, those people who are seeking for, they will find, as it says, seek and you shall find. But
We shall find.
um, some people, they don't. They feel empty. They feel different feelings that they could feel for their own reasons, and that's where these people with scams come and feast. So
Yeah, yeah, they are. They really are. But thank goodness we have, and I'm so appreciative to you, Victor, for this platform, for allowing me to come on and sharing my story, and hopefully having this be educational, and that people can spot the patterns themselves now.
mhm.
Um, and I may do just on my own channel. I have a YouTube channel too, but I hardly ever use it. Or my social media, I may do a follow up or two, because there's so much information. There's no way we could get to it all um, with this, and we've been here an hour and a half. Um, but I'm going to follow up with a lot of information that I found, because if I did the research, I want to make it easy for people to find. So whatever is included here, whatever you end up putting down below the video, in the comments section, or in the notes section, I just want people to know to keep searching, keep looking, do your own research. Type in, if you think somebody's trying to scam you, use every element, every tool that you have to do the research, because it will only empower you. The sword of truth, I love that image, because it can cut through with discernment. It cuts away the cancer, it cuts away the negative things, and leaves only the truth. So use your sort of discernment, and be responsible for yourself, for your health and well-being, and that includes online.
Yeah, online, offline.
Yeah.
It probably might be difficult to, when you are a little bit zoomed out, to think of other actions or to research. It's probably easier to say when we are, gone with intoxication or,
Right.
as you said. However, what I would suggest, what I would say is, if you feel as I felt in the past, and why I believe that's one of the main reasons why I fell into this hole, is I felt the empty part. I felt something off. I wasn't a whole, independent, emotionally independent person.
Mm,
I was looking for someone. I had all this nonsense from, honestly, from my parents. You have to feel that, you have to find this, you have to blah blah blah, all this
right.
nonsense. I believe that a healthy relationship can be built by two emotionally stable, independent people.
100%.
When people say, "Oh, you're my happiness," "Oh, I can't live without you," in a romantic way as a compliment, that's fine. But if you feel that way, start working on yourself, because
Yeah.
you're becoming dependent, and then it grows into toxicity, and then the whole thing is not going to work, even if it's a real normal relationship.
Right. Right. No, what you just said is 100% right. We have to love ourselves and be whole within ourselves with our own happiness. Like, we generate our own happiness anyway. Yes, you could be super happy when you're with someone that you love and that you love being with, and that's all awesome.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's important to know that we're the ones who are generating
yeah,
that
yeah. And
internally.
you have to be, if not the same, then maybe even more happy when you're just with yourself. When you go and have lunch by yourself, if you feel off, if you feel, mm, sad, if you feel that you would want to have a company, then you need to work on yourself. Um, when I go eat by myself, I'm the happiest ever. I don't need, and if I have a good company, I enjoy it as much.
Yeah.
Right? There's no dependency, but
Actually,
it
I
took me some work.
I think I agree with most of that, but I will say this because I've noticed this for myself.
Hmm.
And that is, I love sharing a good experience with somebody. It feels so good to me. Like, let's say you're watching a beautiful sunset. And if I'm by myself, I'm appreciating the sunset. I'm appreciating the
Hmm.
handiwork, the paintings of God, like whatever you want to call it. It's gorgeous. But when you're with somebody that you really love and care about, and you're sharing that same thing, it feels, now this is just to me maybe, but it feels to me that it expands the experience, that it enhances it. And that's what I love about partnership. That's what I think a partnership can bring when both people are, emotionally available and ready, love themselves, and able to open themselves up to someone else, is that it just enhances everything you do. Doesn't make you less, doesn't take from you. You don't have to give more of yourself or any of that. I think it's just like that, two two candles both lit side by side are going to create more brightness. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. At the same time, if that's just one candle, it should be the same. Um, should
oh, it's still
create the
lit.
same brightness. Right, still lit. If it feels the opposite, oh, it's such a beautiful sunset, and you feel pain inside that, oh, I wish I was with
Oh
someone,
yeah.
then there is something to work on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
It's always something. It's
yeah,
always
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's really cool. I think it's really, um, if we didn't have these things to study about ourselves,
Hmm.
I think the life would have been probably boring.
A hundred
And
percent.
I would say, in Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu said that in order to understand the whole world, the universe, you don't need to go and study people, or just study yourself, and you will. And I think it works perfectly well.
Yeah. The microcosm of the macrocosm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
We're our own little universe.
Absolutely. Well, Colleen, with all this said, with all this shared, let's say, what will be your final message to our viewers?
Mm. Um, Final message would be empower yourself with knowledge. Um, do your due diligence as far as protecting yourself online, and be aware that, and maybe we've said this, but I think saying it again is it's worthy, and that is online is not real life. Like everything we do on the internet is not real life. Real life happens outside of that, and in our homes and in our lives with our friends and family and everything that goes on. What we do online can enhance that. It can inform that. Having a social media presence, I think, like one of the things you and I have talked about quite a bit, because a lot of your work goes toward this, is branding. And
Mhm.
if you are a creative or a business entity, or you own one or anything like that, it's all like you have to have an online presence. It's almost like you don't exist in today's world if you don't have social media or a website or some kind of online presence where people can find you. It's how we do it. We don't use the yellow pages anymore. We look people up online, and so we know we're going to, everybody's going to be online, and it's important to have that. But we do need to take responsibility for that. That it's not the same as real life, and to be careful, um, cautious, and take responsibility for what you put out there. Um, and still enjoy, no matter what happens, even with what happened to me. And it did, like, I can't emphasize this enough, because right now, I'm healed, if not completely healed, almost completely healed from it. But I wasn't right after. I was a mess, and it was devastating. And I had to go through that. So that you don't go through that, and you don't feel that at that level, I implore you to be cognizant of what you're doing online and how you're sharing your personal information, who you share it with, who you allow into your sphere. And but still, it's still a place where we can do good, and be connected. I like the word community, because to me it means unity and communication. And
Makes sense.
yeah, we can still have our community online. We can still create and do good, but leaving behind our discernment, we can't do that anymore. We have
Yeah,
to be aware that there are, in this world of duality, right? We live in a world of duality. So for every good thing, it's equal and opposite negative thing. So we have negative and positives, and that's the reality. So we can't ignore the negatives. We can't put blinders on and say, "Oh, they just don't exist," or "They won't. It'll never happen to me," or "I'll just, it's all fine." The time for having our ostrich heads in the sand is over, and we all need to be aware and present. And I think that's the lesson. That's the takeaway: is listen to your intuition, be present, know that it's out there, and there's a lot of it. And do your best to take care of yourself.
very well said. I think my message would be a lot less philosophical. I would just say, go to the gym and train legs. Get a killing training that you cannot walk back, and it will make you feel a lot brighter.
Mm. Well, I think that's a nice balance, right? So we are integrated beings of body, mind, and spirit. So if you
Mhm.
take care of those three areas of your life, body, which way you're over there. I don't know what side you're on. I don't know what, on my screen you're there.
Okay. Everywhere.
But we just have to take care of all those elements. And if we do that, we take care of the body, as you're suggesting, which also helps take care of the mind, because when we use our body, it clears the mind and it gives us, we can combine a lot of the mental activity with what we do with our body. And the spiritual side of things, it's also important to understand that we're just a part of the bigger picture, like you're talking about the microcosm and the macrocosm. So,
Very true.
yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I believe that was a nice summary. It was I had a very interesting 2-hour podcast with you. I think that it will definitely be helpful.
You have all the skills of editing that I know you're going to be able to um, work your magic.
Um, I uh, I don't think we need to
No?
because we had good information, and I don't
Well,
think that cutting out helps to those who are seeking for information. And if someone is seeking for some just entertainment to listen to some nonsense for just entertainment purposes,
yeah,
that definitely is not our uh, episode viewer. So let it be as it is. Let it help people who are seeking for help. And Colleen, thank you for your time. Thank you for opening up and sharing. I think it's priceless. It's extremely valuable, not just to me, but to all of our viewers.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
My pleasure.